In the summer of 2023, Evelina Morozova, a 49-year-old archivist, was organizing the cluttered basement of the old Rasvet House of Culture on a rainy July morning. Outside, a heavy downpour fell, and the air inside was thick with mustiness and dust. She was searching for old theatrical costumes for an upcoming exhibition dedicated to the history of the town. It was then that her hand stumbled upon something hard behind a pile of forgotten scenery. At first, she thought it was just another wooden panel. But when Evelina tried to move it, the panel shifted slightly, revealing a tiny gap. Curiosity took over, and she shined her phone's flashlight into the opening. What she saw made her heart stop. Behind the panel was a small niche, and inside it lay a dusty, yellowed notebook. What she found had been there for 44 years. The notebook was covered in faded fabric, but seemed remarkably intact for its age. And most disturbingly, the name Anna Petrova's diary was written on the cover in faded ink. This name belonged to one of the 7 teenagers who had vanished without a trace from the Church of the Holy Trinity in 1979. This discovery would forever alter the 44-year-old secret that had haunted the town. Evelina had no idea that this ordinary morning would become the most unsettling day of her life. What was about to be uncovered had remained hidden for decades, waiting for this moment. In a few minutes, a mystery that had lasted for more than 4 decades would finally be revealed. The town would never be the same after this discovery. It was a harsh autumn in 1979 in the small, isolated town of Zarakai. Surrounded by dense forests and a narrow, winding river, the town had always lived a quiet life where everyone knew everyone else. In the center of the town stood the ancient Church of the Holy Trinity. Its domes gleamed dimly under the overcast sky. For the teenagers of Zarakai, the church was not only a place for services but also a kind of informal meeting place. Here, they gathered after school, shared secrets, and dreamed about a future that seemed so distant and full of possibilities. 7 teenagers were inseparable friends. Anna Petrova, 16, was quiet and thoughtful, always with a notebook in her hands in which she wrote things down. Her best friend, Svetlana Kovaleva, 17, was her opposite, energetic and bold. Oleg Smirnov, 18, was the leader of their small group, always ready for adventure. Next to him was his younger brother, Igor, 15, more reserved but loyal. Maria Fedorova, 16, was known for her kindness and incredible voice. Nikolai Volkov, 17, was interested in technology and always carried a small radio. And finally, Kirill Lebedev, 15, the youngest, always followed the others with wide, curious eyes. Their lives were simple but filled with hope. They dreamed of attending universities in big cities, of traveling, of changing the world. They spent hours in the church, not only during services but also simply sitting on the benches, talking in whispers so as not to disturb the sanctity of the place. For them, it was a refuge, a place where they felt safe and could be themselves. They discussed books, music, their first crushes, and plans for the future. On October 15, 1979, after evening service, the 7 friends decided to stay in the church longer. Dusk was already gathering outside, and the church was almost empty, except for the caretaker, Uncle Vasily, who usually locked the doors after everyone left. The teenagers planned to rehearse a skit for the school concert that was to take place the following week. They asked Uncle Vasily to let them stay for another hour, promising to be quiet and careful. Knowing their good character, he agreed, reminding them not to stay too late. However, the next morning, Uncle Vasily found that the church door was locked from the inside. None of the teenagers had come out. No one was there. Their school bags, neatly stacked by the altar, were the only evidence of their presence. Immediate panic ensued. Parents, teachers, neighbors, the whole town joined the search. The police arrived quickly, but a thorough search of the church and the surrounding area yielded no results. No signs of forced entry, no notes, nothing. The teenagers had simply vanished, as if they had dissolved into thin air. No one could understand how 7 people could disappear without a trace from a locked building. All that remained was confusion and hundreds of unanswered questions. What was lost that evening? The lives of 7 young people full of potential. The whole town of Zerakai and the families of the missing teenagers were affected by this mystery. Questions immediately arose about how this could have happened and why there was no evidence. Years passed, then decades. The mystery of the 7 missing teenagers from Zerakai gradually turned from acute pain into a nagging chronic wound for the entire town. The memory of them lived in whispers, in the longing looks of parents, in periodic articles in the local newspaper that each time revived hope and then extinguished it with a new wave of despair. Many residents of Zerakai left the town, unable to bear the oppressive atmosphere of the unsolved mystery. Those who remained learned to live with this ghost. While the outside world gradually forgot about the tragedy, a terrible truth was hidden behind the walls of the Church of the Holy Trinity, a truth known only to a handful of people with power and influence. The rector of the church, Father Tikhon, a man of stern character and unquestionable authority, was the central figure in this conspiracy. He was assisted by several trusted individuals from among the parishioners and local officials who were either bribed or intimidated. What really happened to the teenagers? They were not kidnapped. They did not run away. They were locked up. Locked in a secret room under the altar of the church, the existence of which was known only to a select few. This room, intended for storing ancient relics, became their prison. The teenagers, fascinated by the ancient frescoes and the sense of adventure, accidentally discovered the hidden mechanism that led to this secret room. They went down, unaware that Uncle Vasily, the caretaker, was part of Father Tikhon's plan. The old man, loyal to the rector, activated the hidden lock when the teenagers were inside. Father Tikhon's motive was perverse and deeply rooted in his fanatical beliefs. He believed that the teenagers, especially their leader Oleg and his friends, were too free-thinking, too Western in their views. They listened to the wrong music, asked the wrong questions, and undermined the purity of the community. Father Tikhon believed that in this way he was saving their souls, cleansing them from worldly influences, and guiding them on the path of true faith. He planned to keep them there for some time so that they would repent and realize their sins before returning them to society in a renewed form. He was convinced that he was acting for their own good. At the beginning of their imprisonment, the teenagers did not understand what was happening. They thought it was some kind of mistake and accident. They shouted, banged on the walls, but their voices were drowned out by the thick stone walls and the sound of the wind outside. The room was small, damp, and barely lit. The supplies of food and water that Uncle Vasily occasionally gave them on Father Tikhon's orders were minimal, just enough to keep them alive. They lived in constant fear and despair. Anna Petrova's diary became their only way to stay sane. In it, she recorded not only events but also their feelings, fears, and hopes. Anna described how Maria sang to cheer them up, how Oleg tried to find a way out, how Nikolai tried to disassemble the only source of light, a dim kerosene lamp, to understand something, how Igor, the younger one, cried at night, and how Kirill, despite his fear, drew on the walls with crayons he found in his pocket. Svetlana, her best friend, tried to be strong for everyone, but her entries in the diary, which Anna copied, spoke of growing despair. Father Tikhon regularly visited them, preaching to them about sin and redemption. He told them that they must accept their fate as God's will. Over time, from exhaustion and hopelessness, their resistance faded. One by one, they lost strength. Some of them fell ill due to the terrible conditions. Father Tikhon had no intention of killing them, but he was indifferent to their suffering. His goal was rehabilitation. In parallel with this, the official investigation was quickly curtailed. Father Tikhon, wielding considerable influence in local circles, managed to convince the authorities that the teenagers had most likely run away from home, deciding to start a new life somewhere far away. False testimonies were fabricated, documents were forged. Any rumors or suspicions were quickly suppressed. Those few who dared to ask questions faced threats or mysterious accidents. Father Tikhon's power was absolute. The secret was kept for many years. The true suffering of the victims remained hidden. The efforts to conceal the truth were enormous. 44 years later, Evelina Morozova entered the scene. Her connection to the original event was indirect but deeply personal. She was the younger sister of Svetlana Kovaleva, one of the missing teenagers. Evelina, who was only 5 years old in 1979, vaguely remembered her older sister, but the image of Svetlana had always been a source of unbearable longing and an unresolved mystery for her. Evelina had never accepted the official version of events, and all her life she had been quietly but persistently searching for answers. She became an archivist because she believed that in old documents, in dusty archives, she could find the key to the past. Evelina had always felt a certain pull towards the Rasvet House of Culture, which was once an old church school. It was there, according to her childhood memories, that Svetlana spent a lot of time with her friends. And now, this dusty notebook, Anna Petrova's diary, was in her hands. This was not just a find. It was a cry from the past, a call for justice. As Evelina read the diary, her inner conflict grew. Each page was a blow. She recognized Anna's handwriting, details of their life together in Zarakai before the tragedy. But then began the description of their imprisonment, their struggle for survival. Evelina read about hunger, cold, how they tried to support each other, about Maria's songs and Kirill's drawings. But most importantly, the diary contained direct indications of Father Tikhon and Uncle Vasily. The entries were full of fear but also Anna's determination to document their suffering so that the truth would one day come out. She could not die without telling the truth. The burden of knowledge was unbearable. Evelina understood that this truth would ruin the lives of many people, including those who still believed in the virtue of Father Tikhon, who had died many years ago, revered as a saint. But the thought that her sister and her friends had suffered in captivity while the whole world thought they were runaways haunted her. After 44 years, the truth had to come out. The time had come for those who held this secret to answer. Evelina knew that the families deserved to know what had really happened. She spent several days rereading the diary, checking every name, every date, every detail. She compared them with the yellowed newspaper clippings and police reports that she had collected over the years, and each time everything matched. The revelation was not just shocking. It was devastating, and Evelina knew that she had to be the one to tell the world about it. She was the only one who held the key to the truth. The truth had to be revealed now. The moment when Evelina Morozova decided to reveal the truth was filled with unbearable tension. She did not go to the police immediately, fearing that old connections and collusion would again bury the truth. Instead, she contacted independent journalists and historians she trusted. She gave them Anna Petrova's diary, copies of all her research, and her own testimony. She knew this was the only way to make the story public and impossible to suppress. The publication of Anna Petrova's diary was an earthquake for Zarakai and the whole country. Journalists published excerpts from the diary, and what appeared before the public was pure horror. A detailed account of the imprisonment of teenagers in a secret room under the altar of the Church of the Holy Trinity. The diary described every day of their hell, how they tried to scratch messages on the walls, but Father Tikhon and Uncle Vasily regularly painted over them. How Maria, whose health was undermined, slowly faded away. Her singing became quieter and quieter until it stopped altogether. How Oleg, trying to lift their spirits, made up stories about life outside, about how they would come out and tell the whole world. How Nikolai tried to disassemble the locking mechanism using a piece of a spoon, but to no avail. Anna described how she held Svetlana's hand when she fell into despair, and how Svetlana whispered to her about the hope they had to keep. Most shockingly, the diary revealed the full name of Father Tikhon, his accomplices, including Uncle Vasily, who had died shortly before the diary was discovered. It also described how Father Tikhon regularly visited them, preaching to them and saying that their suffering was purification. He convinced them that the outside world had forgotten about them, that no one was looking for them, and that their only salvation was complete humility and repentance. The diary contained even darker entries. Anna described how, one by one, the teenagers lost strength. Maria was the first to die. Her weak voice fell silent forever. Then Kirill, the younger one, whose body could not withstand the conditions of imprisonment. Their bodies, according to Anna's records, were taken out by Uncle Vasily at night and buried in a secret place in the church cemetery next to long-forgotten graves, without any identifying marks. Anna described how she and the others tried to come to terms with the loss of their friends, how they prayed and cried, but their prayers went unanswered. Further in the diary was a record of how Oleg, trying to make a last attempt to escape, rushed at Uncle Vasily during his next visit, trying to grab the keys. Uncle Vasily, already old and frail, pushed him away, and Oleg hit his head against a stone wall. He died instantly. It was not murder but a tragic accident, but it was a consequence of their imprisonment. Anna described it with such pain and clarity that readers felt her grief. Then Nikolai and Igor passed away, both from illnesses caused by exhaustion. Anna and Svetlana were left alone. The last entries in the diary were devoted to their attempts to support each other, their prayers, and their hope that someone would one day find the diary. Anna herself died of illness a few days after the last entry, leaving Svetlana alone in the dark. Svetlana's fate, according to the diary, was unclear, as the entries were cut short, but Anna left a message. "We are here. We did not run away. Tell the truth." The reaction to this information was immediate and furious. The town of Zarakai was in shock. People could not believe that such horror could be happening right under their noses, in a holy place, under the patronage of a man they considered a righteous person. The parents of the missing teenagers, many of whom were already very old, experienced a new wave of grief but also relief. Finally, they knew what had happened to their children. The truth, however terrible, gave them the opportunity to mourn and finally get answers. It was a complete revelation of the truth in all its shocking details. After the publication of Anna Petrova's diary, a new, unprecedented investigation began. The police, having finally received irrefutable evidence, conducted a thorough search of the Church of the Holy Trinity. Thanks to Anna's detailed descriptions, the hidden room under the altar was found. Inside, the remains of their existence were discovered. Kirill's yellow drawings on the walls, a few personal belongings that the teenagers had taken with them, and confirmation of the terrible conditions. An exhumation in the church cemetery led to the discovery of 5 unnamed graves located exactly where Anna had indicated in her diary. Forensic medical examination confirmed that the remains belonged to the missing teenagers Maria, Kirill, Oleg, Nikolai, and Igor. They had finally been found, but Svetlana's fate remained unknown. Anna's diary broke off before her death. This left the last agonizing thread of mystery. But a few months after the discovery of the diary, during further excavations around the church, another, less deep burial was found, and in it lay the remains of Svetlana Kovaleva. Next to her was a small, time-darkened cross, which, as Evelina recalled, Svetlana always wore around her neck. Next to the remains lay another note written, judging by the handwriting, by Svetlana on a scrap of paper torn from Anna's diary. The note was short. "They tried to save me, but it was too late. Forgive us. I see the light." This meant that Svetlana lived in captivity for several more days after Anna's death, and perhaps Uncle Vasily, feeling death approaching, released her, but she was too weak to survive on the street. Or, more likely, she died immediately after being taken out of the room. Those who were involved in the conspiracy faced the consequences. Father Tikhon, of course, had long since passed away, but his reputation was destroyed. His name became a symbol of fanaticism and cruelty. Uncle Vasily was also dead, but his role in the tragedy was fully revealed. The remaining accomplices, including several former parishioners and one official who helped in the cover-up, were brought to justice. They were arrested and brought to trial despite their advanced age. Some of them died before the verdict, but the remaining ones received severe sentences for complicity in the abduction and concealment of the truth. The impact on the community was profound. Zarakai was split. Some felt betrayed and outraged that they had lived next to such a terrible secret for so many years. Others, especially those who revered Father Tikhon, refused to believe the diary, considering it slander. But the irrefutable evidence and the testimony of Evelina Morozova were too strong. The Church of the Holy Trinity was closed to parishioners and turned into a place of remembrance. Photographs of the 7 teenagers now hung on its walls. The families were finally able to hold decent funerals for their children. This brought them some semblance of peace, although the wound would never heal completely. The discovery of this terrible truth became a lesson for the town of Zerakai and for all who followed this story. It showed how easily power can pervert faith, how institutions can abuse trust, and how far people are willing to go to hide their dark secrets. The long-standing mystery was finally resolved, but its shadow forever fell on Zerakai. After the shocking revelation, Zerakai slowly but surely began to recover from the shock. The town became a symbol not only of a terrible tragedy but also of the power of truth. Evelina Morozova, having become a heroine, dedicated the rest of her life to protecting the memory of her sister and her friends. She founded a foundation to support families affected by similar unsolved cases and lectured across the country on the importance of seeking the truth, however bitter it may be. There were no survivors in the literal sense, but their memory lived on. The story of the 7 teenagers became a grim reminder of the fragility of innocence and the danger of fanaticism. The Church of the Holy Trinity, once a place of worship, became a memorial, attracting visitors wanting to learn about the tragedy. A memorial plaque was installed with the names of all 7 teenagers. It served as a constant reminder of what happened behind its walls. This story left a deep mark on collective memory. It raised questions about faith, about morality, about how easily even the most sincere hearts can be deceived. The tragedy of Zerakai showed that true faith must be based on compassion and truth, not on cruelty and deception. The story of the 7 teenagers locked in the dark now shone with the bright light of truth, which finally broke through decades of silence. Their sacrifice was not in vain. It became a warning and a call never to forget. Their story will live on,